the most extraordinary revelation now. Not many people were expecting a name to appear this quickly. Perhaps this would be something that would appear in the Sunday papers with a wide expectation. A number of different names have been floating around Westminster for the last few days since news of this really started to emerge on Tuesday evening. Of course, it was raised then at Prime Minister's questions on Wednesday, back when people thought that it may be a front bencher who had made this transgression within the chamber. Then the Prime Minister said that if it indeed had taken place, that would be a breach of the ministerial code, that would be grounds for sacking from the government. It has since transpired that there was confusion with regard to that, not a front bencher, not a minister, not even a PPS. No, although a relatively senior parliamentarian, of course, Neil Parish was the chairman of, or is, I should say, the chairman of the Food, Environment and Rural Affairs Committee, DEFRA. Now, this is someone who has been in Parliament since 2010, and before then, for 10 years, was a member of the European Parliament from 1999 right the way to 2009, when he took over his seat in the southwest with a pretty stonking majority. This is someone who holds a relatively safe seat down there in the southwest and hasn't really made much of a national profile for himself in his over a decade sitting on those green benches. But clearly a very disturbing development, and indeed the Conservative Party have been quick to say that the whip has been suspended from Neil Parish while this investigation goes on.
Tom, thank you so much. Certainly Neil Parish is well known to farmers, I think it's fair to say, right across the UK because of his work in DEFRA. And do you think that they decided to come out with this story because they wanted to kill the fact that it had been reported that this was a cabinet minister and a front bencher that was involved in this story?
I think that what has transpired today, the brilliant journalism of the Daily Telegraph that has revealed this afternoon, is not of the timing that the government would have liked. If anything, the government would not want us to be talking about this so close to the local elections. Now, it did seem that there was a lot of confusion. First, there was confusion as to whether this was more than one member of Parliament, because two separate female Conservative MPs had said they'd seen someone doing this. Now, it later transpired that those two female Conservative MPs who spoke at the same meeting on Tuesday night, a meeting, incidentally, that was convened to try and keep women in Westminster. Conservative politicians had gathered in a committee room in Parliament to try and find ways to get the atmosphere to be better in Parliament, to retain female MPs in Westminster for longer, because the attrition rate, the rate at which female MPs tend to leave Westminster is a lot higher than the rate at which male MPs tend to leave Westminster of their own accord. And this meeting turned into a session whereby people mentioned the problems of the culture in Parliament, and then these two female MPs mentioning this specific transgression. Now, it transpired then later that this was the same individual, but still confusion over whether this person was a minister or otherwise. Now we know for certain it wasn't a minister, but as I say, a reasonably senior backbencher, someone who has survived now 4 general elections to the House of Commons.